Well, hi.
Hello.
Hi. This topic here that we're gonna talk about today got me thinking a lot about things that I realized used to feel really bad that no longer feel that bad anymore. So it's kinda like this
Interesting,
this
right?
took me a little bit down memory lane in a good
Yeah,
way, I think.
yeah,
I guess we're gonna
yeah.
find out.
Well, isn't that how it is, like, for most things, though? Like, when you're in it, you just
Mhm.
kinda go, "Oh my gosh, this I don't see a way out of this."
Yeah.
And then you're so right, because even some of the things that we've talked about in the last episodes, I've gone back and I'm like, "Huh, I can actually laugh about this now," or I mean, when I think about it, if I gave myself enough time, maybe I could muster up the ick feeling, but not really. It's gone,
Yeah.
it's done. But I mean, that's life. So, all right, let's talk about the topic of today. So, as we've mentioned before, we're going to try for every other episode, instead of diving deep into a particular topic where we do research or whatever, we're just going to answer a question. So, Natalie and I, we don't know what our answers will be, and we do that intentional. So, the question for this week is, let me make sure I get it right. Have you ever lost respect for a leader you worked for? And if so, what happened?
This, for me, there wasn't one immediate thing. And I think it because it is respect is so I mean, for better or for worse, respect is pretty subjective. And so did I think poorly about some things people did in the moment? Of course. But the real things that made me lose respect and see people in a different light, I think maybe I'm fortunate. There's not that many of them, but every single one of them I can look back and see like, "Oh, I definitely learned something from this." I learned how not to be. I learned how I never want my staff to see me. And,
Mhm.
uh, and I think even in the moment, some of these I didn't realize were as impactful as they ended up being. Is
Yeah,
that what you came up
same,
with when you're thinking?
same,
Yeah.
same, same, same. And actually, the one that I will share, well, I won't share my opinion until I'm done with the story. Do you want me to go first, or do you want to go
Do it.
first?
Dive in,
Okay,
girl. Let's do it.
okay, okay. So 1,000 years ago, when I had my first, like one of my first big girl jobs, like out of them all, um, I was in this position, and I was the assistant in this department, and there was this leader. Now, she wasn't my boss. She was like the leader of another department. But when I tell you, she was everything I wanted to be eventually, right? This beautiful woman, clearly very intelligent, well respected, dressed like immaculately, always seemed to know the answer to things. She would just like walk down the hallways, and people were either like intimidated by her or like loved her, right? And I was somewhere in between. I just had so much admiration for her. And then fast forward in time, I ended up having to work for her, which I was like, again, intimidated but in love, right? And I found myself like trying to be like her, like just I'm telling you, man, she was
She had, like,
everything I
secret sauce. Like, she had something special about her that
right.
people were into.
She
Yeah.
really just was like everything I had wanted to be. Like, I was insecure, clumsy. I didn't have an college degree because I had, flunked out, dropped out, however you want to say it. Um and I just wanted to be so much like her, right? In addition to, she was a woman of color, and I just admired her so much. So she kind of took me under her wing, and almost like grooming me and doing all these, and I was just like I was there for it, right? And one day, so as you know, I have like big curly hair. I mean, you can
Yeah.
kind of tell. You notice I
Unless
don't
you
have
get
my
that Dominican blowout.
yeah. Oh,
Well,
and then
that
I'm
is
like,
silky smooth. Your
I'm
hair is
actually,
your hair is shinier and straighter than
yeah,
mine when you have that. My and
I'm
I
getting that next week.
oh, the viewers
So
would be able to see. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
It
yeah, yeah.
I love both. I love both,
Yes,
and I
yes,
love
yes,
the
yes,
dichotomy of the 2.
yes. And as you know, I don't have braids anymore. So
Currently,
braids are.
yes.
By the way, that took like five. No, that took like 10 hours to unbraid. So I think what I need to do if I want to become a bajillionaire is I need to figure out a way to like a mechanism to unbraid your hair that doesn't require 10 hours of
Human fingers.
tears. and,
Yes.
like, my fingers are like this, and it's awful. But anyways,
Yeah.
so, I have big curly hair, it's kind of unruly, and I was a young I was, like, in early 20s, and so one day I wore my hair out, right? Because I was like, "Man, my curls are, like, actually working with me. This is awesome." And I had big curly hair, and I came to work, and I was feeling really confident. I had my suit on,
My
big
god, I love
hair.
this image.
Yes. And I sat down, and I got there first because I always got there early, and I'm working, and then my boss comes in. She looks at me, greets me, whatever. I'm like, "Hey, good morning," and she goes to her office. And then, like, an hour later, she calls me into her office, and she says to me, "I'm gonna need you to put your hair in a bun." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "It's not appropriate. Like, your hair is not professional. It is not appropriate." And she pulls out a brush, ponytail holders, and, like, bobby pins. And she's like, "Go to the bathroom, fix your hair, and then come back." And I did.
Yeah. That's such bullshit. I'm sorry that you
And
had to, or that you felt like you had
and
to.
I did, and, at that time, like, I walked in on a high, but then by mid-morning, I felt so self-conscious, and I felt like I'd done something so wrong because I was working so hard to, like, be taken seriously and all these things, and, I it's I never wore my hair out at work ever again, even to this day, like,
Yeah.
curly, ever. And, you know, fast forward in time now, as I've done a lot of work on myself, and as you know, I speak, I do all these things, I've kind of revisited that. And, I talk a lot about confidence in the workplace, women in leadership, and how it is our responsibility to open doors for others. But I won't say that I lost respect for her, but I've come to kind of feel sad for her because she came up at a time where that's what you have to do,
Yeah.
right? And I
Yeah.
think she had really great intentions, but not realizing that she was actually just kind of continuing to carry on this, like you said, bullshit
Yeah.
perception that, you know, professionalism in the workplace looks a specific way,
It's white
especially as
supremacy is what
right,
this is,
right,
but that's
right,
not
as
what we thought about in the early 2000s.
exactly, exactly. And, so, it took me a very long time, like, I was really I don't even know what I felt, I felt a lot of shame because I
Yeah, you
felt like
just felt wrong.
I did something wrong, and so years later, what I won't say that I lost respect for her, what I will say is I quietly allowed her to step off of the pedestal that I'd had her on for a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And it shifted the dynamic between us, not immediately, I'm talking like a decade later because I'd actually kept her in my life for a very long time, but I noticed that every single interaction was really her in a very supportive way trying to tell me like, "Y you gotta calm it down a
Yeah.
little bit if you wanna be taken
Turn your
seriously."
Trinidadian down.
Like, turn it down if you want to excel, if you wanna get into the C-suite, you gotta bring that down a few notches. So that's the story. Like I said, it wasn't
Yeah.
necessarily I lost respect, but I felt bad for her, but I allowed her to step down from
Yeah.
that pedestal because I'd had her there. I mean, she was the
Yeah.
image in my mind of what success looked like as a woman.
Yeah.
So, that's my story.
Yeah. So you never worn your hair curly on stage during a when you're talking,
Never,
like, during a keynote?
never.
Well, do you ever want to?
Yeah, I will, I will.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think you should.
I've moved away from that for the
Yeah.
most part. Honestly, it's just because it's unruly as hell, and I'm
Well,
just
and
gonna be
also,
honest.
like, when your hair is sleek, you can see your earrings better, and I know you're a big
Yeah,
earring on stage
yeah,
girl, so
yeah. So, but, no, it's not because of anything other than it's a lot of work,
yeah.
and I'm just like, "Do I really wanna"
You
you
know
know?
what that makes me think of really is, and now I don't wanna put everybody's mom into this category, but I think most of us who are of our age, who have mothers that are probably in the boomer era, it
Yeah.
was very, very normal and almost expected that there would be comments on our bodies to keep us looking the
Yes.
way that we're supposed to look, which is,
Yeah.
rooted in patriarchy and all that. But it's coming from a place that of, like, deep shame within themselves, like,
Absolutely.
deeply ashamed of their body being perceived out in the open as anything other than the ideal, and if they caught wind that you may be doing a thing that is putting you out there and that you're, like, the nail that sticks up because you look
Yeah.
different,
Yeah.
I think it's probably coming from that same place, but it is I mean,
Yeah.
you gotta stop that cycle at some point.
Exactly, and so I think it wasn't for her to stop the cycle, it was for me to stop it,
Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, I mean, that was a very interesting because I remember going in the bathroom and looking at myself and then, like, beating myself up, like, "Why would you do" like, and I just felt, so shame, like, the only thing that was my saving grace, honestly, was that it was so early in the morning, no one else was even in the office yet, and so I kind of felt like, "Okay, nobody saw me like this, so it's okay." Like, I felt
Yeah, it's
not
like you
as
tucked your skirt into your tights or something and, like,
Yeah,
your boss told you, but nobody saw,
yeah,
and you're like, "Oh, phew, thank God nobody
thank
saw it."
God. Yeah,
But, like,
exactly,
forever you're checking to make sure that's not happening again.
exactly, but it's also what has for me with my kids, right? So you've seen my daughters, they both have unruly, big curly hair, different textures, whatever, but it's one of the
Right.
reasons
Beautiful.
why, since they were younger, I always made it a point to, like, try to nurture that love, um, in how they look as much as possible. I don't know if it worked, but I guess we'll see. So far, so good, but we'll see. But that's just like, I mean, that's a whole different story. But
Yeah, that is.
that's
We
that's
could go
that's my story. That's one of my stories. And
Alright.
then I'm gonna have to think of a funny one.
Yeah.
Okay, go.
Yeah, I don't mine's not funny so much, it was quite eye-opening, and this was a person who I wouldn't necessarily say I had, like they weren't on a pedestal for me, they were just my boss, and it was,
Mhm.
I was not yet in a leadership position. This was later in my career,
Mhm.
not all that long ago, but I had switched employers and came in kind of on, like, an individual contributor level, where I had
Mhm.
been at a leadership level, but I was, like, ready for something different, so I did that, and then all of these things happened and there was somebody else in line for this job, but then they no longer wanted it. And my boss was retiring and so she was like, "You should apply for this." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, I have done leadership before. That's sort of my thing." Thought I was just gonna be a clinician again. Didn't stay that way for long. But so I was fortunate in that I got about a month and a half of on the job training with her. Like
Okay.
Sitting sitting on one side of her desk for a month and a half going over things. So when she finally left, I felt extremely prepared, but not necessarily because I knew everything, not because I learned everything that she did. I felt very, very prepared because I realized the way she was doing things were extremely unfair, singling people out and like doing it unashamed, like no shame in this game. But and so this was one of the more uncomfortable situations I had with her is that we were sitting and we were going over like kind of personnel files, something like that, and looking at productivity, like clinic usage and all of this stuff. And she had one person in particular, and she pulled out this folder, and it was huge compared to everybody else's. I was like, whoa, what's happening here? And I knew this person because I was being promoted from within the team. I worked alongside this person who had the biggest personnel folder I'd ever seen. Didn't understand, and I said, "What is the deal with this?" And she's like, "Well, I have to keep special tabs on her." I said, "Oh, tell me why. What's going on?" She said, "Well, you know the type. You let her get away with anything, she'll get away with everything. So what I do is I check in." Like, she had some system set up on her computer. Like, I don't know, this is probably illegal, so hopefully
No one's gonna know what
no
you're
one
talking
connects
about.
these
It's
dots.
fine.
She had something set up where she would calculate how much time she spent, like, logged in and then comparing it to like the average length of something and then double checking and then had her turning in a separate report every month that I don't think this person knew, only she turned in. And it was almost like a weird obsession. I started to think like, why are you so obsessed with her? Because it was this tedious, tedious tracking of everything. And this person I knew she was excellent at her job as far as like professionally. Her patients loved her, coworkers, of course, some people didn't, I don't know, whatever, but this was a person who, like, in my mind, was very easy to figure out. I knew exactly what she needed. It was not a hard thing for me to get this person to do what needed to be done because you would just compliment her and be nice to her. That was it.
Yeah.
The but my boss, as she was training me, said, "You're gonna start to think things are okay because you're not gonna see any trends. And then suddenly she'll mess up and you'll have the records for it." And I was like, this is, you know, it's a witch hunt. Like, we're actually witch hunting this
Yeah.
lady, all because
What
she
was
was
her
kind of
beef with
annoying.
her?
She was kind
Okay,
of
she's a
annoying. Just found her annoying.
okay.
Yeah. And I was like, you have
Wow.
redefined this relationship you have with just her because you find her annoying. And you have all of these, like, records of you keeping tabs on somebody who is a professional and has been doing this for 20 years, who has never had any complaints, who has never, like, we get audited. There's never been a
The
problem with this
reason
person. Their personalities clashed, and my boss just, her way of dealing with it was to be more vindictive than to just let it go. And after she sat me down and showed me all this, and I asked questions for like 30 minutes because I was digging,
wow.
digging, digging, trying to figure out why is this report necessary?
Damn.
Well, it's really not necessary. Okay, so why are we doing it? Well, we're doing it because she'll get away with stuff if we don't. Oh, okay. So how do we know everybody else is doing it? Well, we don't, but we just know they don't do this kind of stuff, right? Only she's the one who does this. I'm like, I realized that my boss had never worked alongside her before, but I had. And so
Yeah.
I saw what she was really like delivering patient care and what she was like working with the rest of her coworkers, like her peers.
Mhm.
My boss had never seen that and had come up with this entirely false narrative in her head of what was happening.
Mhm.
And I straight up asked her at the very end, I said, "Is there an expectation from you or like who would be my new boss that I continue this record keep like this?" And she said, "Well, I think it's necessary." I said, "I don't think it's necessary."
You told her that?
Yes, I told her that. I said, "I don't think it's necessary." And it turns out the person who became my boss, he had no idea she was even doing this. And so she was making up all these stories. And anyway, so it wasn't that I
Wow.
necessarily even respected her that much in the beginning. I she was fine. Like, whatever, my boss. I learned that it man, things only matter if you make them matter. That was really one of the things with, like, this wasn't a big deal. She didn't have to be tracking any of this,
Yeah.
but she spent all of her time doing this. So I was like, "What the hell are you doing all day?"
Yeah, well,
Literally, "What the hell are you doing all day?"
she's tracking her this one chick all day. That's a
Seriously.
full-time job. PI work ain't easy.
I mean, yeah, yeah, she was bringing up her Facebook, she was bringing up everything. She had, yeah, it was
What?
weird. She had, like, a really weird kind of pseudo obsession with it because she was dead set on finding something that this person had done wrong. But, I mean, if that, like, 5-inch folder, 5-inch deep folder didn't show you anything was wrong, you're probably
Mm,
barking up the wrong tree.
yeah,
And, that was deeply, actually, what it gave me, though, it gave me quite a lot of confidence that I could be better at this than she was.
she was. I mean,
I was
she she
immediately a
set she set
yeah,
that bar real low.
she really did. And I
So,
immediately felt like, "Okay, I'm better at this now." So,
yeah. Yeah, I
that was a
definitely think you're
defining
way
moment.
better than mediocre. Definitely.
But that was a defining moment for, like,
Yeah,
"Oh, I should trust my own instincts." Because I was like,
yeah,
"This is wrong. Like, this is real jacked up."
yeah,
And she kept trying to convince me that it wasn't jacked up. And I was like,
yeah.
"Girl,
This is
this
not
is
okay.
whack."
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was a big
Damn.
one.
So did you, like, toss all that stuff when she was gone? Were you like, "Screw this," and you
Yeah,
just
we
toss
only
all
had to
that
keep
stuff
things, well, personnel
right there?
folders, yes, I had to create a file. God, it was a whole thing. Yeah, I had to create a whole thing, but I did, I got rid of all that and took it out of the official personnel and put it into, like, the sort of unofficial,
Yeah.
subjective information kind of thing, which,
It didn't need to go anywhere.
and nobody else had one of those.
Yeah, no, that's disgusting.
Isn't it weird?
Oh,
It
okay. Alright, okay, I got one. I got one. I
Okay,
got
okay,
it.
okay.
Okay, okay. Alright, so, I gotta every story, I gotta set it up a little bit. So, I was with this organization. I'm not gonna say what kind, but I was in an organization, and we had, like, a sales team, and then we had like operations, like back office operations, right? And there was always this clash among sales and operations because and I used to say, like, it's because we're not speaking the same language a lot of
Mhm.
times. We want the same things, but we're not necessarily speaking the same language. And so there was always like a rub, right? Now the sales team, commission driven, like all about volume, whereas operations specifically like risk and quality and compliance, they're more about we got to make sure that this is right to mitigate risk for the organization, right? But oftentimes, the people on the operations side felt very much like they weren't respected. Anything they tried to say to the sales team was like brushed off
Yeah.
or um, basically looked over, and they still went ahead and got approvals, even though like this operations team was like, guys, we can't do that. So, as the person I was over risk, quality, compliance, having a conversation with my leader who was an executive leader, so he was way up there. Um, and I kept bringing some of these concerns, and not just because from a cultural perspective, but more so just from a risk perspective. Because if risk and quality is saying we can't do this or we can't do it this way, and your sales is going to you, and you're like, whatever, just do it. Like we're putting our company at risk. When by the way, you're going to lose really good people because there's only so much of that crap they could take, right? And so I was having this it was a constant conversation in one way or another because we're always getting escalations and or whatever. And then in one conversation, I was talking to him, and I said, I think what it comes down to at the end of the day is that this team does not feel respected, right? They don't feel like they get any level of respect. They're often treated like the help, right?
Yeah.
For the sales team,
Yeah.
and his response to me was, "What?" And I said, I feel like they don't feel respected, and so it would be really great if you and I could come up with some way to kind of break down some of those barriers to get to baseline, right? Baseline respect. Like everybody deserves respect. As a human being, you deserve respect." And his response to me was, "I absolutely disagree with you because you earn respect. You don't get to just get respect. And your goal and my goal, our goal and our focus is to focus on the people who keep the lights on in the organization, which is sales. Everybody else is dispensable, essentially." And that in that moment, the little shred of respect I had left for that man
Mhm.
went out the door because and you know what? When we post this episode, this might be something that we might find people on both like on opposite ends,
Yeah.
but I am one who believes that you deserve respect when you come in.
You know what
Now,
I wrote down? Respect is a reflection of you, not them.
right, right.
I
So
wholeheartedly agree with that.
I feel like all of us deserve a certain level of respect. Now, you can certainly gain even more respect based on like what you do and how you show up and get, and
Yeah.
and
My
all these other
baseline
like
is
but
respect.
baseline is as a human being, you deserve respect. And I do not subscribe to that BS mentality of we treat the people who quote keep the lights on better than we do the people in the back office. And oh, by the way, just because someone brings a sale in, we still got to get them across the finish line. And oh, by the way, we do that through operations,
Mhm.
right? So nobody makes a dime until operations
Yeah.
takes care of what they need to get that person across the finish line. And essentially, that's what I said to him. It didn't go anywhere, but at that moment, I understood fully where I stood because I was operations,
Mhm.
right? I was
Yeah.
over operations.
Yeah.
So he clearly, without saying it, said that from his perspective, I was dispensable and I didn't necessarily deserve any baseline of respect. And he was not going to give a damn about what happened to the people in operations because he needed his salespeople. So that was one of those moments where I was just like, huh, that is not me, and I am not that kind of leader, and I will never be that kind of leader. And this person was in an executive leadership role
Yeah.
for he's still in that role,
Yep.
actually.
You know what I think is crazy about this is, like, we're talking about things that are these are character these are character flaws. I mean, it sounds kind of I don't wanna classify people as, like, "You are bad because you have this kind of a character," but honestly, yes. If you
Mhm.
think that there is this natural hierarchy because you immediately move above because you bring in more money,
Yep,
that is I mean, that you can't win. There's no way to win that game with that person if you're just not in that one role, and I would assume that this kind of belief that he had probably spans more than just the workplace, you know?
probably,
Like, the guy
probably.
who drove the valet is probably not as important as the
Yep,
that kind of thing.
yep,
Where
absolutely.
the help.
Yeah, the help. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But the thing is nothing happens without the help,
No
right?
kidding, who's gonna no, like, your head sales guy, your whole president's club guy is not gonna go in there and clean the bathroom, but
Right,
he's gonna use the bathroom like the rest of us do. Ugh.
exactly.
Yeah,
It's
that
just
gets me.
it's like I don't know if I forgot what the guy's name is, but, when they were getting ready to put someone on the moon,
Mhm.
and there was, like, this whole documentary about it, like, when they were, like,
Yeah.
going into NASA and
Yeah.
checking it out, and, like, one of the interviewers was walking around and checking out the premises, and he comes across, like, the janitor
Yeah. I
who's
love the
mopping the
story.
floors. Yeah, and he's like, "Hey, so, like, what are you responsible for here? What is your job?" And he's like, "My job is to put somebody on the moon."
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
so true because every single one of us, regardless of our role, our tenure, title,
Yeah.
whatever, we are all responsible for the collective goal of wherever we are.
I mean,
Period.
absolutely. And I think it's easier probably for people in an executive leadership role to lose sight of that, not to give them a pass, but I mean, there's all the pressures coming in. And in an executive leadership role, if the people who are responsible for bringing in money aren't bringing in money, it's your ass in the line. However, we know the way you motivate a team is not by telling them, "You guys are better than everybody else. Don't worry about anybody else. You guys are the elite superstars." That is like I don't remember which basketball team it was, but the first basketball team in the Olympics, when you put the US like, there was all the pro players, and they shat the bed because they were basically told, "You guys are all the elite superstars," but they didn't know how to work as a team, and so it's like you almost inadvertently start pitting people against each other.
Absolutely.
And that is a lot of sales departments are like that, which is tricky
Yeah, and
because
what you
it is
do
pretty
is
cutthroat.
you put people in a position to point fingers and not have really any accountability because yeah, you're sales and you brought a sale in,
Yeah,
but operations, they're the ones who determine the quality of that sale and they're going to make sure that everything's in place so that that sale can like be fully seen through to the end. And yes, you bring the sale in, but nobody eats.
yeah.
And the lights don't stay on unless they get across that damn finish line.
Well, and then you gotta
So
deliver on everything. You can't just
exactly. Well, you
promise
gotta
them the world, and you gotta deliver.
well,
I do know.
anyways.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was my do you have another one?
Yeah, I don't know that I've talked about this before, but I think I've told you about this, that it involved this is a kind of a double layered, it air is at a lunch thing when I was in a role as an assistant manager position and a man, it was kind of like a casual lunch and everybody in the leadership team was there. And he asked me if I had resting
Yes,
stance, basically. I was 23 and I don't, and I didn't then. But the fact that he asked me that my boss and my boss's boss were both sitting at this table. Nobody said a damn thing except for me. And all I said was, "Nope." Like, he that was are
that's
the
so
and
that's so
so it, like,
disgusting. And
lost
first
the
of all, no, and you're not telling the story right
yeah, I know, I'm not. You've heard the story before. There's a lot to
because
it.
there was something he said before he asked that question. And what
God,
was it that he said? Do you need me to remind you? Okay,
would I tell you word for word? Because yes, I can
he said, "We've all been wondering."
yes. The
And
guys in the
then he
shop have been
asked the
wondering.
question. Yes.
Yeah, the guys in the
"We've all
shop
been
have been
wondering.
wondering. We've all been wondering.
We've
Yeah.
all been wondering."
And I'm like,
And then he asked the question.
"Yeah." And I think my boss and my boss's boss would probably say, "Oh, we were so stunned." Well, yeah, no shit, we're all stunned, you should not be asking this, and this was also early 2000s, this was 2000, maybe 2004, I don't know, but, like, still, and I felt again, I felt that sense of shame, and I felt so alone, but I knew it was wrong. You know, like, there was no question
Yeah.
in my mind that he was cool in asking that, I
You were
knew
and
that.
you're embarrassed too, I'm sure.
I was
Yeah.
so embarrassed. You know, because and it's not like I was wearing, like, Gucci mama tops. I mean, I was dressing the same then as I do now, and I don't know, that says a lot about me as, like, a Gen X/millennial cusp right there. I'm dressing the same as I was in
Me too,
2004.
though. Me too, though, so it's fine. It's okay.
Yeah. I had, like, probably a Gap V-neck on in
Yep,
navy
the
blue,
foots, yep.
you know, and it was just so uncalled for and bizarre, but nobody said anything, and I was with I was the lowest, probably ranking person there at the table, and I was like,
And what happened after? Like, was
"Nothing,
there ever a
literally
conversation? Nothing?
nothing. Change in conversation, nothing."
You know what's I mean, we're not I'm not saying anything that's a secret, but it's just it makes me so sad because stories like yours, stories like mine, completely different scenarios, right? But I'm constantly hearing stories of women in the workplace who are spoken to, especially when it comes to their bodies in
Mhm.
certain ways. And I would love to say that it's over because that was in the early 2000s, so it's done, but it's not. It's still happening in very subtle ways. Certain like microaggressions are still happening. And it's just
Just
how do we fix that?
yeah.
How do we fix that? Can
You
we
know,
fix that?
if I were to do I mean, first of all, there's not a chance in hell he would have said that to me today as a 45-year-old woman. You
Well,
know what I mean?
yes. And that's the other thing too, right? He
Yeah,
said it because he knew he could,
yeah, yeah,
right? Like yeah.
and if I
So,
had had my if I had known he was gonna, because it wasn't like I was meek and quiet, like, I was,
yeah,
you know, but I didn't know, I didn't know what to say.
yeah,
But if I had known he was gonna say it, I would have probably just said, "Do you have any idea how inappropriate that is? Can you say that
yeah,
again? What have you all been wondering?" I think I would have made him lean into it further, because then he's gonna lean back because he knows it's not
absolutely.
okay. That's what I would have done, because then it would have been impossible for leadership to ignore it. But I just wasn't I didn't know
Yeah.
what to do or say. So I lost
So,
respect for basically every one person
yeah,
said something to me after, and it was the person who was my friend, and she was like, "That was dis," and I was like, "That was really
yeah,
weird, right?" She was a little bit older than me, but still in her probably late
yeah,
20s, you know?
yeah, yeah,
Enough
yeah,
life in her to know, but not, like, enough to really
yeah,
not to be in a position of true power there.
yeah,
But, like, kind of that whole situation, I lost respect for pretty much everybody there, and I left not long after.
yeah. And you were probably for that first few seconds wondering, "Is it me? Am I overthinking this? Am I, like,
Sure.
overreacting? Oh, am I
Yeah.
just being too much in my head?" You know,
Like,
all
am I too
those
sensitive? Am I being
yeah,
too
am I too
sensitive?
sensitive? Like, is
Or,
it
like,
too much?
should I have worn a sports bra today? Like, what you know
Yes,
what I mean? Like,
yes.
it got me
Yeah,
thinking about that, which
yep.
was, like,
Yeah, and then you
really weird.
feel just weird and yucky. Ugh,
Yeah.
I'm so sad that that happened to you. But, I'm really curious though, like, for those of you listening, like, you know, do you have a story like that? So, I mean, obviously this is all about, like, when we lost respect for leaders, but I'm really curious, like, men, women, have you had experiences like this in the workplace where, you were you know, told to change or something about you was highlighted in a way that made you feel some level of shame? And how have you been since that? How has that impacted you? And I'm just curious about those leaders out there. What are you doing right now to
To
try to
help.
stop this kind of crap? Because
Yeah.
it's still happening now. That man that I told you about, he's still an executive leader and still doing God knows what. These leaders still exist. I mean, it's
Yeah.
not like we were in these roles 80 years ago. This was,
No.
within the
This was
last
back in the
decade,
Jessica Simpson
15
era,
years.
like our
Yeah.
last episode or whatever. This was
Yeah.
the same same sort of
Say what
situation,
you want
same
about Jessica
timeline.
Simpson, but she knew how
Those
to
shoes,
her shoes are the bomb.
I bought did
Just
we talk
saying.
about this? We may have had this exact
We
conversation
might have.
last time.
Yes, we did, we
I
did.
recently bought 2 pairs of her shoes and, like, their boots, they are
Mhm.
so comfy.
She has a pair of camo, stilettos, like closed toe, pointed toe stilettos, and I cannot find them in my size 7.5. I can't Natalie, if you
I'm
find
also a
those,
7.5. Okay, if
you're
I find
I
them,
know you're a 7.5 because
okay,
I tried on your shoes when I was at your
great.
house. I'm telling you, I'm looking for those. So if you find it's camo and they're
Okay.
so cool.
Camo
Um,
pointed toe, like, stiletto pump.
stilettos, yes, baby. Ooh,
Yeah.
mm,
Uh-huh. Yeah, her shoes
yes,
forever. Yeah, chicken of the
yes.
sea. Like, she wasn't the brightest bulb, she didn't present as the brightest she wasn't great on TV, let's say that,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
she knows something. She knows
She knows
something.
something. I don't
She's
know. Or
you could
she's
be
hiring
smart
the
in
right
many
people. I
kinds of
don't know.
ways. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, so all right. So I think that's
Yeah, we've
that's
gone appropriately off trail.
yes, as usual.
Get
Like
back
that's what we
on.
do. Chaos. But anyways, no, thank you so much, Natalie, for sharing those
Thank you for sharing.
stories. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Want to hear your feedback. Definitely tell us if you what scenarios you've lived through as
Mhm.
it pertains to losing respect for your leaders. We want to hear because eventually what we're going to start doing is sharing some of your stories
Yeah.
on our podcast. Not your names,
Not your
obviously,
names,
but
but a
we want to
fun
share those.
alias.
Yes. Oh, by the way, though, the names of everybody we talked about, they'll be in the show notes. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. All right. I think
But
that's
yeah,
it.
we've got some we're I'm excited to start that, whatever we're gonna call it, that little segment of the show when we get some really good, like,
Yep.
leadership confidential type stuff. So
Yep.
start sending them in, people.
Yep. 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 All right. All right. Cool.
Awesome.
I'm going to sign us off.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye.